And this is Will Lacoma, a fabricator and machinist. Together we have a number of curious and exciting topics to share with you.
Our series highlights an eclectic group of speakers, experiences, and workshops across a broad range of subjects dictated by our curatorial interests in the areas of culture, design, science, technology, art, fabrication, and design techniques, and lost common knowledge.
As attendees of the Hand-Eye Supply Curiosity Club, you are now all members provided you adhere to our philosophy. Ex curiositas scientia. We pledge to learn without prejudice in pursuit of our mutual goal, perpetual noviceship. We admit that it is impossible to know everything about anything, and thus we remain perpetually curious and perpetually novice.
This is our flag and our mascot, Franklin. The lightning bolt represents the receipt of knowledge, the enlightenment of illumination, and the resonance of truths understood. It awakens and excites us and makes us hungry for more.
I'm pleased to introduce our speaker, Coco Martinez. Coco's background as a florist, backup dancer, and costume designer, alongside her family's heritage of versatile Mexican circus performers, allow her to successfully merge costume jewelry aesthetics with classical and modern eras by using contemporary mediums and techniques.
Like, they made me sound like I'm gonna do tricks, but circus tricks, but I'm not. I'm gonna talk to you guys about the resin jewelry I make and how I ended up doing it and how I learned how to do it. So I was never, like, I didn't go to school for this. I haven't been trained by anyone that knows what they're doing. So I learned, like, through videos, books, asking around. So I'll start with, I thought our Gmail slideshow was going to be up already. Is it? No.
I think Tobias will be able to help you out with that.
Okay, well, anyway, you don't need to see it right there, right now. So, I moved to New York in 2005, and I moved there with the intention of doing something with fashion. I thought I wanted to work with apparel, but I just didn't really know what I was getting into. I moved there, I was living there like 2 weeks, I got a bartending job, and I met Richie Rich, the designer for Heatherette there, and I was asking him something about fashion. He's like, oh, you should just come work for me. So I started working for him, and I would go in and do random stuff, like make tutus, bikinis, whatever. Like, it was Fashion Week, I just would do whatever they asked for. So for like 2 years I did that, and then I started making jewelry just out of, like, I would go to like jewelry supply stores and get costume jewelry pieces and just kind of throw them together. And I made him, I think, a brooch, and he was like, oh, this is really awesome, you should bring a bunch of it by, like, pick your 5 favorite pieces and show it to our stylist who's like dealing with all the dressings for our shows, which was Patty Wilson at the time. This is like 2007. And so I brought stuff into her and was just like, you know, hope she likes it, whatever. And she liked it, and she was like, it's really great, but I want it all to be white. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And I had no idea what I was doing. And so I tried to paint stuff, like spray paint, like enamels. Nothing was working. And I was like, oh my God, I have 4 days. What am I going to do? And so I started going to all these plastic supply stores that are kind of like tap plastic, except way less helpful in New York because nobody cares. And then finally, like, I was at an art supply store and I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? I don't know how to do any of this. And this guy was like, oh, try like these silicone molds and urethane plastics, and kind of walked me through it and gave me a book and a DVD and a magazine. And in like 4 days, I just like, I had really patient roommates, and I just like cranked out like a ton of it, like just trial and error. It wasn't that easy at first because I had no idea what I was doing. But anyway, so I made a bunch of it, and I was just hoping that she would use like 1 or 2 things in the show, and I had no idea what would happen. And then the day of the show, she used everything, and I was like, okay, like, awesome. So these are examples of the first things that I did. So everything was white, and they opened the show with like 10 really hot African-American models in all white jewelry, and I was like, okay, that's what I did. So these are some of them, and then here's some examples of those. And then from there, I wasn't selling them yet. I didn't really know what to do, and my boss was like, "You're a jewelry designer now," and I was like, "Okay, I guess." And so then I did a photo shoot with Miss Behave and Lydia Hirsch through Heatherette. So here's some of those. And then from there I kept working with Richie, just doing, random resin jewelry. And I started to learn how to use colors. It was like a process where I just did not know what I was doing. And I had to learn how to use all these different materials, and I suggest taking a class instead of just being like, maybe this is going to work, because sometimes things happen that you're just like, oh my god, it expanded and almost exploded or whatever, and it's a little nerve-wracking. So these are examples of the shows that I did with Richie. Like the last one, or 2 slides ago, was in Miami. This one was at Waldorf Astoria in New York, and then these are more of the things I'm doing now. I'm trying to skip ahead so I can show you guys actually how I do it. Most of you are my friends, so you've seen it. I'll just leave it around there. But I'm going to pass around some examples just so you guys can look at stuff. You get to be my assistant. And I'll show you guys my, this is just like a book of stuff that I've done. It's pretty much similar to what was up here. But so when I make these things, I start out with like an object that I pick out, whether it's like I find an old piece of jewelry and cut it apart, or sometimes I'll make something out of clay, or I'll put 2 things together, whatever I feel like doing. And I'll start out with, it'll kind of look like this, where some people they'll use like plexiglass, which is the cleanest, easiest way to do it. Like make a plexiglass box around what you're doing. But I usually, since that's kind of time consuming and you end up ruining the plexiglass, you end up going through a lot of it, I just make my stuff out of like boxes or cardboard. So this is a box that I would say use to make a mold, and if I was going to make like 3 rings, a lot of times I'll make multiples of the same thing so I can mass produce them. So I would put it in a box like this, or if I was making it out of just cardboard, I would glue the cardboard pieces around it. And the best way to do it is to give yourself a 1/2 inch from like all sides and above the piece, so that when you pour the silicone on top, it has room to move. I should have told you guys this. I use silicone molds, and there's different companies you can use. Like Tap Plastic sells these ones, this isn't what I usually use. I usually use Smooth On products because theirs are so easy to use, where you do 1/2 and 1/2 ratios. So you take like rubber mold A and B, mix it together, pour it in. Whereas this is like 1/9 and that, and there's way more room for error. So if you have like the option of getting Smooth On products or something that's really simple, I say go with that when you're learning how. But so I would take something like this, and if I was gluing pieces, like hot gluing pieces of cardboard around this, then I would want to make sure that there's no room for any liquids to get out. Like just hot glue gun the shit out of it, like corners, everything, like overdo it is better than having it ooze out. So then I would take something like this and I would put a sealer on it. And one thing when you're doing stuff like this is it is a lot better to stick with one product line, because sometimes if you're using like Smooth On products and then you're like, I'm going to use this sealer, it might react weird with what you're using. So I try to just, unless I know I can mix them, I try to just stick with like one family of products. So I would take this, and to save silicone, I would probably put a wall up right here so that I wouldn't have to have all this wasted area of like a mold where this has no purpose. So put a wall up, put the sealer on it, let it sit for like 10 minutes, until it looks dry. And then you need to spray something like this, which is this one says it's safe for food. It's a mold release. I would never eat food that touch this or something. Like some of these products, if you're doing this, you'll come across and they're like, and you can put chocolate in here. And I'm like, oh my God, don't do that. Like, I just imagine what could happen. Like you might, I don't know, who knows. But so this one, usually I would, if you're starting, I say start with all smooth-on products. Spray it, let it dry. It's really important you let it dry because if you don't, when it's drying, it can get bubbles that weren't there or it won't go all the way in. So let that sit, and then when you do, whichever way you use the silicone mold, whatever brand you use, just be really accurate with your measuring and don't just stir it like a whirlpool. Try to mix it, and if you have to, have 2 containers that they go in and out of, because otherwise it promotes air bubbles. So you'd pour it into this box. I would do this in front of you, but it'd be so boring and it would take an hour and you guys probably leave. But in the end, if you were to do something like this, you'd probably end up with a mold like this. And then this is where you would pour the resins into. So with a mold like this, if you're using Smooth On or these Tap Plastic brands, it's pretty safe generally to go with another type of resin in this scenario. You just have to be really careful with your mold releasers because I've had some that react weird and then the stuff doesn't want to cure. So be careful. But I guess my biggest concern when showing people how to do this is safety stuff. It's not really something you want to do inside your house, or if you're going to do it inside, you need a really well ventilated room. Don't just do it in your kitchen, or it's you don't want it around food. And I've been told by all these other people that work with it, don't drink hot drinks around when you're doing it. I don't know why. I mean, these could be complete urban myths that you're going to have a 2-headed baby and because you drank coffee with mold releaser in it, or I don't know. But I did not go to school for this, and I didn't go through training for it, so I don't know. Some of the things I do could be over cautious or under cautious. I'm not sure. So if you do this, don't call me because your cat died because it licked some resin or something. But so you'll end up with a mold like that, and then I'll show you guys an example when I pour the resins. But your end piece would be like this, where you just kind of carefully pop it out. This is where you can tear your molds. So it would end up like this. And then from here, you still have a bunch of shit to do to fix this, to turn it into something else. But, so I thought I should show you guys various molds, so I'm not just this is the only way you can do it. You can buy a mold already made. This is just an ice cube tray. And when you do this, write something on the back. So if this gets donated to Goodwill, or your roommate is I'm going to make ice cubes or Jell-O shots, don't make it in this. It's bad. But I usually use molds like this because for what I do, I can have a flat side on one. I don't need it to be completely three-dimensional. But then if you did want it to, say, I was showing you guys my rings earlier, where on the back, my rings are clear like this. So I have these cut up where they take a tube with a certain size in it and they just cut them up. And then I adhere these to the back and then pour more resin on them. But you could make them where the entire piece is one whole thing. And then your mold's going to be more like this, where it's 2 pieces. And when you make them, it's a similar process, but you just you end up cutting down the sides and putting like keys notes in it so you know it fits perfectly, and then you have to rubber band it, and then this is when you have to use different types of resins, because like the one that I'm going to show you, it cures really fast. Like you don't have enough time to slowly pour it into here like you do with these. So you definitely have to like research, and it's not even hard research. Like you buy the thing, you read it, it's like this cures in 2 minutes. So take all that into account when you're like, I want to make something really fast, and then you buy one that's like, this cures in an hour, and you're like, oh my god. Which I've ordered those on accident, and then you have to deal with them. So I'm going to show you guys really quickly how I would do something like that. So pretend we made a mold already, and now we're at the part where we would actually pour the resin. And oh yes, normally you'd have one of these on. You have to wear a mask, otherwise it's bad for you. And like when I do this, I like suit up. I completely cover myself. I wear a mask. If I'm doing something messy, I'll wear goggles. I always wear gloves, because I mean, if you start doing this, you'll learn quickly that this shit's kind of, you can do anything with it. It's amazing, but like I had a friend that was using this stuff and had a severe allergic reaction where she didn't even get it on her skin. Like she was just using it and her face swelled up and she couldn't go to work. And I've had it happen where like I used to be a little more careless and I'd have like sleeves to here and my glove would go to here and I'd be like, oh, whatever. And then I've had like just little bits get on my skin, and then I'm like, oh, I have a rash, and then I'm like, oh my god, it's that stuff. It took me a while to figure it out, and then and it doesn't go away quickly. Like if you get it, like even now, like every now and then I'll like, you know, go like this and be like, oh shit, I just got it on my face, and like it's not going away in a week. Like it'll leave like red dots for like 2 or 3 weeks. It just looks like mild acne or something. Like it's not cute. So anyway, with this stuff, like you can go to Tap Plastics, art supply stores. They have like a variety of different things, and for projects like this, I stick to, especially when they're opaque, I stick to the like same ratio, A, B, same size, mix it together. If you want something really translucent, that's when you have to use some other chemicals that they cure a little slower, they're less likely to have air bubbles. But so for these ones, I use the Smooth On products, and so I just take the spray and I just like quickly go like this. And like for something like this that has more grooves and stuff in it, you might want to do this. There's another spray that you dip in a paintbrush and actually like make sure you get in here. And then you have to let it dry, otherwise they turn out a little weird. I'm not that worried because it's just an example, and you guys, you guys aren't going to be like, this isn't perfect. So I pre-measured the resin, and it's equal parts A and B. And with this type of stuff, it cures in like 4 minutes, about. But with this, I mean, you can't really see this because I can't tilt it, but the part A is way darker and the B is way lighter. So in this circumstance, I know which is which. I'm not gonna like accidentally pour like 2 parts A and then mix it together, pour it in the mold, then doesn't do anything, kind of ruins the mold. In this circumstance, I know I have the right one. Some of them are just, they're both clear and you can't get them mixed up. Because then you'll pour them in and you'll come back in a half hour and be like, oh no. And then you have to try to clean them out, and like, it's not that easy. So,
do you have the pigment at this point?
These are going to come out cream colored. If you were going to add pigment, you have to add it to the B solution. So you would add it to that, and then it would be like,
That's the clear one.
yeah. Well, they're different with different resins, but so you would add it to that one, and then you would know like that's that color, like it's bright pink, like that's it. And this, like, most of the dyes you use will go so far. Like, they're expensive. It seems like it when you're buying them, but they will go, like, a drop will go so much further than you think. And if you get it on your nails, on your clothes, it's just staying there. Like, if you get it, it's like oil paint. Like, if you get it under your fingernails and then you touch something else, then it's going to get everywhere. So you know, don't wear anything you care about when you're doing this, ever. I like these pants, but whatever. So you just take the two parts and you just, I guess you guys can't really see this. So they're equal parts. So you pour one, and then you pour the other, and try to make sure there's not like a bunch at the bottom of the cup.
Doesn't matter which one you pour first?
No, because you're going to mix them together anyway. And when you're working with something that's colored, like bright pink or black, you'll really start to see if they're not mixed well enough together. Like this I can tell because it's starting to like I can see them mixing. I'm also like pretty familiar with how they look when they're ready. If you're having your doubts and they're not mixing well enough, then like start pouring them between two cups instead of doing a whirlpool. And then I'll just start pouring them. Like the best thing to do is if you have one that's slow enough to cure, try to pour at the deepest point in the mold. So we'll just go like that, whatever. I'm just trying to show you guys because we're not going to like use them for anything. So it'll happen pretty fast where like, you're like, is it doing anything? Because every now and then you'll be in situations where you have to deal with temperature a lot. Like not here is much important. Like I do this outside and no one's going to die from this in here. But I do it outside usually, and if it's really cold, I can't do it. Like, it's just not going to work. And I could get, like, space heaters. Then I have to deal with worrying about my space heater falling over and who knows what. And they say you can use heat guns, and you can use heat guns, but sometimes the heat's too much, and they'll just start to, like, bubble. Like, everything will be fine, and you'll pull it out and be like, ah, oh my god, oh no. Like, or it'll just start to, like, expand way too fast and it won't work out. So I mean right now like it seems like nothing's happening, and then you wait and it'll happen like out of nowhere. You guys can get up and look if you want because it should do it kind of soon where it looks like what were those trees when you were a kid, those packets that you would make and then all of a sudden like yeah, it looks like those on like high speed video. Like it takes a while, but all of a sudden part of it will turn white and then it'll just like expand.
Should we chant?
See, it's happening on this one. Magic. Science. Oh, what?
How much life can you get out of the molds?
It depends how you take care of them. Like if you don't have any accidents where you use like 2 parts of one chemical and then have to clean them out, like you can get a while out of them, but you can also like kind of condition them with stuff, but there are certain silicones that last longer. So if it's a mold that you're like, I need to do this like 1,000 times, you either need to use a stronger silicone or keep your original piece, make multiple molds. Like sometimes I'll make a mold, pour resin, and then remake that one. But after a while, if you keep doing that and you don't go back to your original mold, it will start to turn into something else. And then you'll be like, oh my god, this isn't the same at all. Like, a piece will break off and you won't realize it. Something will happen. But, yeah, so that's how that works. I mean, it's still curing. Like, one thing I've learned is that you, like, be patient. Don't pull it out when you think it's done, because I have some examples of what happens. And then also, like if you're like in these ice cube trays, this is pretty deep. These cure way faster than if I was doing something that was, say, on that necklace I showed you earlier, there was like a small cameo. Say something like this, or thinner. Like when I make earrings, those take way longer. For some reason, the heat in this, or what I've been told, is that because there's so much of it, it's getting hot and it heats itself up, and then it.
Weird.
Yeah. So if you're making something like if you were making some big giant cube, it'd probably heat up pretty fast. So like when I do these heat up really fast. Like I don't have to wait 40 minutes to pop them out. They just pop out and they're done. But a lot of those, like these splatter ones that I do in layers. So I'll make one color and I'll go through and I'll splatter them. I'll make another color, go through. And then in the end, I just pour like we just did. So these are examples of what those look like when they come out.
How do you do this? You splatter
Yeah.
inside of the mold?
Like I'll make like one color, like say I pick purple. And so I'll like wait for the resin to cure a little bit. So it's not completely like just sloppy liquid, so it has some viscosity, and I'll just at random, like just pour them and be like, okay.
Have you ever had one of those break on you? I wonder if that's like structurally it's probably not as strong to do in the stages.
These, you can tell when they're not going to stay together in stages. Like here's an example of one that didn't work out, and I think it was because there was too much of like say chemical A or B, and where it starts to separate. And when you pull it out, you know, you're like, this is not going to work. Like it'll have an air bubble. Like you'll be like,
I'm just
oh.
wondering about the adhesion if you're like letting it cure and then adding more on top of it.
You have to be careful with like these ones. You do
Especially putting it together pretty good.
like this is just like striped layers, but in some of like this ring, say I did like a little bit of white and then the rest is in black. If while doing that, like say I'm doing a bunch of different things at one time, if while doing that I spray something else with the mold releaser and some of it gets on there and then I pour the black part on, it's gonna come off and I'm like, oh crap, like, and it's just ruined. Like, I mean, but you know, if you're doing a bunch of them at the same time, just be careful. But sometimes if you're doing, say, something this opaque with a translucent layer, you will have problems like that where they want to come apart and it doesn't work so well. So you just have to be patient and hope they stick together. Because sometimes you can like do two different parts and then glue them together, but they can kind of pop off. I'm trying to think of what else I should show you guys. I have like examples in here of like stuff that's gone wrong where like on this ring there's too much of one chemical so it doesn't all cure all the way, and like on the sides of these the same thing happened, and like that one it comes out smooth, but like in ones like these it's still kind of tacky and like you just can't use them because and it could be poisonous, or probably not poisonous, but you know, like you probably don't want to sell it to somebody.
Do you measure the chemicals by liquid weight? Do you ever do it by actual weight?
You can do some by weight, like some chemicals you can only do by weight. I usually work with the ones that you just measure in volume. Like I'll get those medical supply cups that have ounces on the sides. Those are the best way to just like use those because they're accurate. Because sometimes you'll go like, I used to like go to the dollar store and buy like a huge thing of plastic cups that had like markings on the side and they're all supposed to be the same, and then I would just read off of those. Like when I had to produce a lot of stuff, I'd be like, okay, and then every now and then you'd find out like, oh, these aren't perfect because you got them at the dollar store and they're not made for that. So yeah, so you know, you have to try to be as accurate as you can be. Yeah, and like this one, another thing you have to be really concerned with is dust. So if you're like storing your molds and you're not keeping something on them, or you work in a dusty environment, when you pour a mold, the dust, everything that's in there is going to stick to it. So like this one's like crazy dusty. It has like fur or hair or something in it. Like if I know a mold is dirty, I'll just pour one in it and know that I'm throwing that away instead of trying to clean it out because it's just not going to
And you
work.
can also use this little spray area.
Yeah, if you have a spray gun, just like the air pump thing, just spray the shit out of it, or a shop vac sometimes helps, but there will be dust like way down inside of it, and you're just not going to see it. So.
It looks like the resin is shiny on its own, but maybe like the remover makes it matte. Or are you able to make shiny ones? Or
Some of the translucent resins will come out shinier, but for some reason, like when it oxidizes, like I've been told that the reason it comes out shiny is because the oxygen releases out of the top, and that's why. Because when I started doing it, I kept being like, "Oh, that side looks so nice." Like, so if like you have to have if you're working with it that way and have to have a 3-dimensional glossy object, you can also just spray them with a gloss. That's what I've done when like some stores will be like, "I don't like that this is shiny on one side." I'm like, "It is the back, but okay." Like, and then just spray the other side, or you can even matte spray the back.
Can you buff these as they're shiny? These plastics?
You can kind of buff them, but like you can see on some of these, like I've sanded the back of these. Like after I make them, I usually sand them. I have like a small sander, and I just kind of go around, and you can tell where it's been sanded. So if it's, if it does matter, then you don't want to buff them, or you can, I have done this thing where you sand them underwater, but it's such a hassle. So if you're making one precious thing, sand it underwater, like, it's tedious, it's totally annoying, but there are things you can do to help, like scratches, or if you sand it, like Tap Plastic sells this, where you can kind of buff where you sand. But this stuff that for your car actually works pretty well.
oh,
Like, it's actually pretty useful. I read about it on a blog and tried it, and it does work pretty good, but just afterward you have to like take a toothbrush and make sure you get all of it out of the piece, because it will stay in there and like turn yellow, and it's easy to get out. But I'm trying to think of what else I should show you guys. I had notes, but oh yeah, there's also brush-on molds. So if you want to make something 3-dimensional, you take, like, if I was like, I need to make that hand thing, you can use these silicones where you brush on, like, you kind of like build around it on one side and brush on the silicone, and you do layers and layers and layers, and then you'd eventually take it apart. That's more for like if you have an object that, say, is 3D and has like a circle in it. Because like with these, with what I'm doing here, like you always have to have a flat back somewhere. So it'll never completely be 3-dimensional unless you do it with the brush on or like this. And then you'll still have one part where it like stood on like a post or something, so it could become 3-dimensional. So you just have to find ways to cover that up, or sand it off, paint it, do whatever. And like a lot of times there will be a small line on those. But people aren't going to be like, I'm not buying this because there's a line on it. But like here's an example of one where I took the ring out too soon, and it kind of causes like a rippling effect. And you can pull it out and you can try to smooth it down again, like it's hopeless. Like it's just going to stay like, so don't pull them out too fast.
How do you decide what kind of objects that you're going to cast? And
When I make a piece, when I started, the first stuff I did for that show, like Patty Wilson had like a storyboard of kind of what she was thinking about, and gave me like issues of Harper's Bazaar from like the 70s, and was like, I'm kind of thinking about this, and like gave them to Richie, who gave them to me, and I was like, okay, I got it.
Was that when they were doing a lot of paper fabric designs too?
It was, yeah, there was like paper dresses and like
stuff like that, right?
a lot of big white floral jewelry. So I was like, oh, okay, I kind of get where she's going. So that helped. But otherwise, like when I decide I'm going to make something, a lot of times I'll have someone in mind that I'm making them for, or like I used to do a lot of jewelry based on jewelry that my mom wore when I was a kid. Like my mom used to get like a lot of silver jewelry in Mexico. Like she had this necklace that was like all silver roses and a bracelet like that. So a lot of when I started was based off of stuff like that. And at the time, I was living in New York and I was working for Heatherette, and I was around a lot of trannies and drag queens, so I could make crazy jewelry and be like, will you wear this? And they'd be like, yay! And I'd be like, oh, awesome. And now when I'm like, will you wear this? People are like, no. And I'm like, okay, fine. Like, guess not. So, you know, like I'll have people in mind when I'm making them, like a customer idea or like, oh, I think my friend would look awesome in this, so I'm going to make this. And maybe other people will wear it, maybe not, so. But like, you know, you could make something out of wood, clay, like anything. And then be like, I'm going to make a mold out of this. Like if you go to smoothon.com, the company that does a lot of this stuff, or even Tap Plastics, they have all these videos where they're like making swords and like they're making like props for movies. Like, here, I'm going to show you how to make a fake knife. And you're like, oh, wow. And then from that, I make jewelry. I'm not going to, I could start making fake knives, but they have like, you can go on their website and they'll show you how to make anything. Like, it's crazy. But you don't want to do it in your house.
Can you eat off of it? Is it non-toxic enough to eat off of?
They have some that they are especially for that. Like they have ones that are for working with food.
So you can make,
Yeah.
can you make like plates and dishes and shit like that?
Yeah, I don't think you should maybe do that with this. I mean, they say some of it you can, but I don't know, don't put it in your microwave. But they do have a whole like line of products that's for like making molds for chocolates or yeah, don't use random ones to make chocolates because you might lose your business or you might die. Yeah, when people are like, I'm just gonna do it in my garage, I'm like, do you have cats? And you're like, yeah. I'm like, you know, your cat might lick some gross resin off the floor or like, and like if it gives my friend, you know, that reaction on her face or like one time it gave me a rash so bad that like it had gone through, I was wearing like coveralls and it seeped through the coveralls through my jeans and like I was like, I have to go to a doctor. Like after a week I was like, it's not going away. Like you have to be really careful, and I don't have like crazy sensitive skin, and so, you know, it's not just like, I can do this in my kitchen, and be careful. I'm trying to think of what else I should tell you guys.
Are you, do you imagine yourself ever working with metal more and moving, like, do you see yourself moving in a different direction of jewelry design?
Right now I'm learning how to work with wood more. I mean, I like combining like this stuff with like leather lately. I've done some pieces that are like leather with like resin circles, and I've been working more with like combining it with other things. And maybe I want to do more like wood and resin together. You know, like it's kind of, I don't know, you can do anything with this shit. Like you can do crazy stuff. Like if you have the space to use a lot of these chemicals that like leave the room. Like, and you know, it's a lot of trial and error, and like, you know, I was trying to think of things to warn people earlier, like you can't do it if it's too cold, if it's too humid, you can't do it either, and like I've never lived anywhere where I've had a ventilated, air-conditioned room, so you have to like,
Not very common.
yeah.
Where can you buy your stuff at?
I order a lot from smoothon.com or Tap Plastics.
Yeah, but where can we pick yours up?
Oh. Well, you can go to my website, which is CocoCardenas.com. I think I had a logo somewhere, like, on here. Or I sell it at Portland Design Collective. Toby's going to find it. He's my new publicist.
That silicone mold technique is this, I'm pretty sure the same silicone is used for making a run of replicating a lost wax, making it a wax.
Oh yeah, you could totally, like, similar stuff,
Whatever
yeah.
you would do for a lost wax
Like,
cast.
you can use this stuff that you get at Tap Plastic. You can go to a hardware store and they'll have some sort of mold making materials. Like, you can find like a lot of different stuff to use. Like, I just use a lot of their stuff because I'll order so much at one time. Like, I'll order like a gallon size thing of it instead of something this big. So, I mean, you don't have to order $300 in mold making silicone. Like, you can make, like, you know, with this you can actually make a lot of molds. Yes, Valentine.
Coco, I'm curious about your idea stage, like before you actually start making stuff. And are you making these things in your head before you start a project, or do you just like go in and feel the vibe and just start designing stuff?
Start throwing resins around.
And where do you get your molds? Do you find things around that you want to make molds out of?
Sometimes I'll just be thrift store shopping and come across something and be like, oh, I'm going to cut that in half and make a mold out of that. Or a lot of times I draw them out. Like, I'll spend a lot of time at home, like, looking at random things online or, you know, other jewelry or accessories, and I'll actually just draw them out with, like, markers and, you know, have, like, I might have, like, a picture of something next to it that I tore out of a magazine. It could be, like, a picture of a monkey. And I'm like, that made me think of this. And then sometimes I make them, or sometimes I'll start to make them, and I'll be making the molds and realize how much has to go into it and be like, I cannot sell this because I'd have to sell it for $1,000 because this is going to take me, like, 10 hours to make each one. Or, like, just the mold part. I'm like, that doesn't work. Like, that might work for something I'm making for myself, but not for, like, a product where I'm like, no, you want this keychain. It took me 5 days. So, like, I look through, you know, just random stuff, like books, magazines, like anything that, like, grabs my attention, I'll take a picture of it, or if it's my magazine, I'll tear it out, and I keep, like, a notebook with all those references in it, and I keep them kind of organized, and then I'll flip through it and be like, oh, this one. I want to pick the head of this rhino with this, and that's usually just how. Unless it's an order where someone's like, I need you to make me a hot pink, like, feather with a dog head, and I'm like, I don't have any dog heads right now. I'd have to start all over, and sometimes I'm like, no, because, like, with people's weird special orders, they'll be like, that's not what I want, and you're like, I'm not dealing with this, like, you're crazy. No. People will ask you for the weirdest shit that you're like, I'm not making you, like, a razor blade and a baby and a thing together because you're not going to be happy with it, and just do it yourself. Yeah, I can't think of anything else I think I've warned you guys about, oh, when you use this stuff, you have to store it at room temperature or somewhere around there. Like, if you live somewhere that gets really hot, it might kind of spoil the chemicals. Or especially the silicones I found, like, you kind of need to use them not too far after you open them, because they'll start to, like, bubble up or do weird stuff where they just don't make the mold like they should. So, yeah, that matters.
How long do those have to sit again?
How long
Before you
is
can
what?
pull them out?
Like these? Oh, these finished, like, so long
So
ago.
we can pull them out now.
Oh, I totally should have
You're
done
like,
that. Yeah.
hey guys.
You can have this. It's dusty.
It's a dusty rose.
Yeah, but like with this is like an already made mold. It's an ice cube tray, and like you can go to a craft store and they have molds for soaps or whatever, but those don't necessarily, they're not as flexible, so they might not work as well. But like these sometimes are, like, if I have this whole tray full of, like, completely full blocks, it's so hard to get it out. You have to, like, skip layers, otherwise you're, like, wrestling with it. It's way worse than ice cubes. So, like, these will pop out really fast if you at least skip a layer. And these, like you were asking earlier, if you do a layer and then leave it, these purple splatters I probably did, like, a month ago and didn't clean this thing out, and they totally are not sticking together right. So if you don't, that's another thing. If you are doing layers, you have to do it quickly, because that's what'll happen.
What do you mean they're not sticking together right?
Like, do you see how there's a layer here that's, like, flaky?
Okay.
That's because this was poured, like, so long ago, and also I've moved this mold around, so it got kind of loose, so it wasn't really stuck on the bottom. Like, all things that as you're doing it, when you come across it, you're like, oh, duh, of course that didn't work. Like, because I made this part weeks ago. I mean, if you want, you guys can pop them out.
Dusty rose.
they're really warm. I don't know if
Very
you're supposed to
warm.
touch them when you're this warm. I mean, you're not gonna die right now. I'm still
I'm
alive.
going outside. I couldn't breathe.
But like, if you want to try to pop them out, like, they're pretty easy out. You can take one out of here. But these, like when you have weirdly shaped molds that aren't a square, you do have to take them out kind of carefully because you can tear mold. If someone does this, I'm not gonna cry. If you tear it, it's fine.
What's the craziest thing you've ever made?
I don't think anything I make's that crazy. I'm trying to think of the craziest thing I've ever. I had to make this pin one time for the shoot that they insisted I had to rhinestone almost all of it afterward, and I was like I would have just made an orange blob and but it was like rhinestone, spray it, rhinestone. It was just at the end of it, I was like, oh god, like I was like, here, that's what you wanted, right? And they're like, yeah, and I'm like, okay. I don't know. I don't think I've made anything that nuts before, but I was really happy when this came out like this. But I feel like everything I make is, it's pretty simple, easy. Roses, animals.
I wouldn't say yourself simple. I like when I wear your jewelry, people are like, well, that's weird and cool, usually.
Abstract.
Yes.
Oh, thanks.
I'm here.
I was gonna wear your fox while I was doing this just to see.
Yeah, but the fox would probably have a reaction.
That's true. It would have died twice. It would have been sad. Somebody would have called PETA.
One of its 7 lives.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else to tell you guys. I don't know if you guys have questions. I maybe can answer them. Yeah.
Is that all the questions?
Austin, old roommate.
Distortion in the way of like it expanding like 3 times. Do you have an example of that?
No, because when it does expand, it means something bad has happened that I messed up on, where maybe I used too much of one chemical, and the first thing I want to try to do is get it out of the mold without ripping it and then get rid of it, because it'll never completely cure. So it'll be this object it will cure eventually, but it's just something I'm like, oh, gross, like it could happen if like it's too humid and I pull something out and it doesn't cure all the way, and then it like bubbles up, and you just like
Sometimes stuff is just off. Like
Yeah.
I had a chance of spray painting with the dryer going through it. It's just like that.
Yeah, like one time I had a batch of stuff that was being a little weird, and I called the company, and they'll totally help you. They'll help you over the phone or via you can IM them and be like, something's happening, and they'll ask you like the batch number of your resin, and they'll tell you if it's curing a little slow, like if they've had a problem with that entire batch. Like they'll totally walk you through it, and if it's not working and it does that, they'll just like let you send it back. But I don't know really, I've never had to send it back. I don't know how you send it back once it gets to you, because just putting the top on isn't really enough to make it not spill out. So maybe you could take it to like one of their vendors or something. But they will like tell you, oh, that one actually needs like 20 minutes more than it says. But they're crazy helpful.
All right, thank you guys so much for attending tonight's Curiosity Club. Thank you, Coco. So our next meeting commences on February 8th at 6 p.m. and our speaker is Philip Fell. During over 20 years as a government lobbyist, Phil became fascinated with the exercise of government power over its citizens. As a historian by education, he observed this use of power and frequently contemplated whether its exercise in 20th century America paralleled its exercise throughout history. His talk is tentatively called What I Learned in the Political Process and Why I Always Sit with My Back Against the Wall. Thank you.
Yeah, I just thought they were. I'm like, oh, you have favorites? I forgot to show people those books.
What books were you?
These books over here were like some of the books that I used when I was learning how to do it, which I totally should have showed people. Okay. Like this one's the easiest book I've ever found. But I was also going to say like this book, if you don't want to actually make this crowd, like make it out of this stuff, is pretty helpful. You can do like